They've exploded onto the high street and into the hands of teenagers. The vapes the industry says are tools to help smokers quit are, some say, creating a brand new generation of nicotine addicts. Today, for the first time, the Advertising Standards Authority has cracked down on a company it says made unauthorised medicinal claims about its vaping products. VPZ, one of the UK's largest vape retailers, publicises appointments in its clinics, helping customers, they say, to start their journey to becoming smoke-free. But these clinics aren't staffed by health experts. They're staffed by e-cigarette salespeople selling nicotine products that haven't been licensed as stop smoking aids by the regulator. This after a complaint by the anti-smoking charity Ash Scotland.
It is highly misleading to consumers for VPZ and companies like them to pretend to be stop smoking services or offering those services. They have no health qualifications, they have no health understanding. They're there to make a profit, and these are sales clinics dressed up as something else.
But the vaping industry's lobby group thinks otherwise. Isn't it right that consumers should know exactly who they're talking to?
It's no different than going into a smoking cessation clinic. Now, they may have used the word clinic, they may have used the wrong term, for instance, but they're not out there to deceive anybody to say that, oh, well, we're medical experts in this. But they do know a heck of a lot about vaping and how to successfully quit smoking using a vaping device.
It's not just misleading claims that are prompting concerns. The real fear is that beyond the market of smokers wanting help with quitting cigarettes, a lucrative new growth market is being targeted. Young non-smokers starting to buy the colourful and sweet-flavoured vapes on display in shops across the country.
I started vaping when I was 14. I had never touched cigarettes before that. They're bright and colourful. They have all these wonderful flavours. I don't know. It just seems kind of irresponsible.
And is that what attracted you when you were 14 and you picked your first one up?
It was cool.
How addictive it is and how much you can use them, it's really accessible, and I think it's too accessible.
Were you a smoker before?
No, I've never been a smoker, I've never smoked.
So how come you picked up vaping?
Social pressures, I guess.
100% social pressure, yeah. Just being on nights out.
Do all of your friends vape?
All my friends vape, yeah.
All of them?
All of them, every single one. When I was back in high school, there would be first years, second years, people that are 11 or 12 walking around with vapes.
As tightening legislation over cigarettes closes commercial avenues, the shift to vaping opens others, with tobacco giants like British American Tobacco and Imperial brands spending millions on rolling out e-cigarettes. VPZ is funded by Philip Morris, the tobacco giant that owns Marlboro cigarettes, to the tune of £25 million worth of loans. And yet VPZ's bosses have been campaigning for the Scottish Government to stub Philip Morris's best-selling product, the cigarette, right out.
We're calling for, firstly, the Scottish Government to put out a complete ban on smoking, but also engage in a bold and brave plan for vaping to help tackle the public health crisis that smoking has caused and continues to cause.
VPZ have said they're hoping to fill the gap left by the closure of local NHS stop smoking services. They've given free vapes to smoking patients at a mental health unit in London and gave vape vouchers to NHS staff during the pandemic. This is a company funded by Big Tobacco trying to place itself at the heart of public health policy.
I'm seeing it from my perspective that the conflict of interest is obvious here, and it's not a new tactic. We can actually see that VPZ, they engage with parliamentarians, they had a fringe event with a party before, they're trying to hijack the health service by providing cessation clinics, and they advertise tobacco on their website as well. So they are using the full playbook.
While more than 40 countries have banned it, the NHS says vaping is far less harmful than smoking. But there is, NHS Scotland acknowledges, still much we don't know about them. VPZ told us,
"We respect the decision of the ASA and remain focused on our commitment to helping adult smokers quit. Our strategy is about one-to-one consultation, bringing expert knowledge and engaging with smokers to educate them on the benefits of switching to vaping."
But even as smokers quit, just how many non-smokers are picking up an entirely new kind of addiction?
Well, joining me now is Professor Emily Banks, an epidemiologist and public health specialist who's led international research into the risks of e-cigarettes. Professor, are you glad, first of all, that the ad watchdog has taken this action?
I think it's very, very important that companies are held to account and that they're giving really clear and evidence-based advice. So I think it's a really good step in the right direction.
I mean, do we know, have you managed to establish with your research just how dangerous vaping is, or is it a kind of bit of a known unknown?
Well, there's a lot of things we do know and a lot of things that we don't. We reviewed the worldwide evidence, and there's clear evidence that e-cigarettes or vaping does carry significant harms, particularly for non-smokers and for young people. The use of e-cigarettes causes addiction, it can cause poisoning, trauma and burns, lung injury. We also know that they have major environmental impacts. And then we also have more indirect evidence, particularly for young people, about the effect of nicotine and use of e-cigarettes on the developing brain.
I mean, how conclusive is all of that? Because on the face of it, it sounds pretty damning.
Well, there is really conclusive evidence, for example, that nicotine is the most addictive or one of the most addictive substances that we know. And I think we can really see with these young people using e-cigarettes now, they are getting addicted. The latest data from the UK shows that around a third of young people, teenagers using e-cigarettes, have strong or very strong urges to use them. We tend to trivialise addiction. We sort of say, I'm addicted to chocolate, but actually being addicted to something means that you're caught in a cycle of withdrawal, craving, and then satisfying it. And you're doing that many, many times during the day.
And so it's much more dangerous than being addicted to chocolate or whatever.
Well, it's much more dangerous than chocolate, and we're seeing sort of teachers, parents, and the young people themselves saying that they've got this fairly constant urge to use, to vape. And imagine trying to learn in that context, being in a class. A lot of kids are having difficulty sitting through classes because of issues with nicotine addiction.
However, has your research also shown conclusively that it's less harmful than smoking?
Well, it's an interesting comparison, I think. I mean, that comparison with smoking is really relevant for smokers. Now, smoking is an incredibly harmful thing. It's the most preventable, one of the key preventable causes of death in the world. We have 8.7 million deaths each year from smoking. So compared to smoking, what our research shows is that smokers who switch completely and promptly to e-cigarettes may well benefit from that. The issue is that a lot of smokers actually continue to smoke and use e-cigarettes at the same time. The commonest pattern is dual use. And then we also have this use among people who are not smokers. And so comparing that with smoking, it should be compared with breathing for those people.
Right, but regardless of, I mean, set aside for 1 minute, getting a whole new generation of people addicted to nicotine, is it still useful to help smokers quit? Is vaping still useful in that context?
Yes, so what we saw in our research is that for some people, e-cigarettes can be very useful. We actually know that the majority of people who quit smoking successfully actually do so unaided. That's between 2/3 and 3/4 of people who quit smoking successfully do so unaided. And then we do have a lot of evidence-based approved therapies like nicotine replacement patches, gum, all these different ones that actually have been through medicines regulation approval and are out there and can be prescribed or used over the counter.
So would you like vaping to be banned apart from on prescription, as it is in, more than 40 countries?
I think the thing is that it's up to each country to decide what they're doing based on the evidence. And England, UK has chosen a particular path. But I think it's really important. Is
that the wrong path from an epidemiological perspective?
I think it's useful that that option's out there. But I do think we have to have our eyes open to what's happening with e-cigarettes being widely available in the community. And that includes a lot of youth use. So the tighter the controls we can have, the less youth use we'll have as well.
Right. Professor Emily Banks, thanks very much for joining us.